Okay, welcome back to Beyond the Analytics. And I have the scouting guy with me. And if you can't hear me because the machine is rolling, we'll have to. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. I wanted to go this route because I didn't want to be disturbed. I didn't want to use the phone and be disturbed. So, what I want to do is I want to explain what it is we are and why we do what we do. We are, I believe, a platform. I believe that we're an organization. I believe that we're an entity that supports the player, supports the coach, and ultimately supports the organization if they're willing to do things correctly. Because I don't think we can help entities out there, organizations out there. Particularly, this addresses the organizational point of this, is that I don't think that we can help any organization out there that decides that they're going to get into the weeds, so to speak. What I mean by that is we have fundamental core principles, and that is proper player evaluation, and that these players go to the proper system. And organizations that want to get into the weeds and put coaches out of their sphere that they know and try to reinvent them or try to get them to do things that they're not familiar with, bringing in players that also don't fit systems. I call it going into the weeds, getting into the weeds, where instead of our core philosophy is identify who you are, stick to that identification, draft or scout around that identification, and develop around that that identification. And we believe that good things will follow. And we don't just believe that. We see that's the track record of teams, organizations that do that normally. That they seem to be the successful models for everybody else. And I've noticed that teams and organizations that want to get into the weeds, like say they want to be this one week, that the next week, they want to take a player that they just love, but it doesn't really fit their system. It's what I call getting into the weeds. So I'm saying that we help the parents of players. We try to bring some sanity in a world of insanity where people just want to look at numbers instead of, for instance, film, logic, this kind of thing. So that's really what we're about. So any input on that? Okay, now unfortunately, I got to discuss with you something that I didn't think we'd ever have to discuss, but as you know, we have to go out on the media circuit here so that we can be heard by our audience. I believe is people in organizations, coaches, parents of coaches, these kind of things. And the only way we can get out really is our message out is through media. Unfortunately, there are bad actors out there that do not like what we're doing and are trying to limit us from our reach. And can you explain to me that you got banned temporarily from Twitter? But first I want you to discuss is what was going on with Twitter before the ban. How was it? How were things going, for instance, at Twitter before the ban?
Well, what was happening before the ban on Twitter was I was actually growing an audience. I was putting material out there for people to look at, and it was growing incrementally, day by day by day. And I don't believe Twitter really liked, and I think I've had some people that have gone on my Twitter and reported me because I don't go along with the analytical approach that these entities have. Um, I go against the analytical approach. I use analytics when it's proper, but again, that's not why I scout. I scout because me and this man right here, Chow Deliver, Beyond the Analytics, We do a different approach than these people do. I mean, it is so unique what we do here. It is unique.
Well,
Um,
it is and it isn't. It is and it isn't. But go ahead.
well, it is. It isn't. But
It
again,
is. It's unique compared to those that are just up to
that
their eyeballs in analytics. It's totally a different animal.
of course, and I believe that I believe I'm such a threat to these people because I am unique in my own way, and the picks that I have scouted. Yes, I haven't been perfect, but my gosh, I mean, you go look at my track record. I mean, it is. I mean, I'm hitting home runs left and right. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and that's with again. I just want this is what really needs to be emphasized. I say it is what we're doing is and isn't unique. It's not unique to organizations that have been doing it and understand it. They are the successful models. Organizations that strictly rely on analytics alone, again, they tend to want to go into the weeds. They just see players as numbers. They don't understand the developmental side of it. So teams and organizations that are really into development in development into their identity and sticking to their identity, we're right on par with that. But I believe there's bad actors out there who want to talk these other organizations into doing it their way, which is again going into the weeds. Here's the numbers, and it's okay. You can get this guy doesn't fit your system. He ranks this way. You know, I think most players. I just watched Aaron Donald. I sent you an Aaron Donald video, and he said, "Yeah, I've got power. I've got all this, but I wouldn't be anything if I didn't develop my technique. If I wouldn't be the player that I am." That is beyond the analytics. When we say beyond the analytics, he just said it for us. And I think that what we're doing is such a threat to that analytics industrial complex, I guess, I don't know what you want to call them, that you'll get reported for BS. And so what happened was is you told me that and you were getting reach. You were making contact, but people were contacting you, and then they cut it off
I
at
was
Twitter.
I was making contact with. I was doing a high school film, and I was making contact with their parents.
Yeah, yeah, because that's what we want that contact because we think that we can help. But so you got it resolved, but at the same time, Twitter's not being quite honest, are they?
No, because they never are.
Yeah, but explain what. Oh yeah, we'll reinstate your channel, but
So basically, what it is, I had to write a paragraph. I would say a 1 to 2 page paragraph. Or I mean, I had to write a couple paragraphs here explaining the situation, what was going on, and trying to get my Twitter back because I'm trying to get all these entities out in terms of trying to funnel in content for us. And we'll give it back. And I found it very interesting that when I got it back, it said I had 0 followers and zero following. And it came back, and a lot of my followers and following are just gone. I mean,
yeah,
it
that's
cut in
typical
half.
protocol. It's typical protocol.
Yeah, typical protocol. But also, when I'm putting out content, it's not getting the reach that it used to be. I mean, I'm not even. I'm
No,
not even.
because they knock down your analytics. There's where
Well, they
analytics,
knocked down the analytics.
your algorithm. They knock out your entire algorithm.
Exactly. They knocked down the algorithm. And it sucks, man, because I work extremely hard to get this out there to people. And I just want to say this to the Twitter. And you know what? If you guys ban my channel, I don't care. I have other avenues I can do this at. But seriously, really, I didn't do any. I got reported for false information, for misinformation, for a conspiracy theory. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. I put out a film breakdown, and I believe that you know what I
Yeah,
believe.
this is really a problem in our society right now. You're not
Exactly.
the only. I just want you to know, you're not the only one that's going through this right now. I mean, even just like several years ago, a few years ago, there was a couple, and they were doing travel. They were traveling around the world and doing their own travel show. They didn't do anything. That was all they were doing, their own travel show. And they got really, really, I think what it is, there's bad actors trying to determine winners and losers. And this whole snitch society, this snitch mechanism they got, and I would say it's false snitching.
There you go.
Nanny state software or whatever, and these people got banned. Like I said, you're just one of many, but you have bad actors out there giving false information. I'm not talking conspiracy. I'm talking about just with, for instance, organizations and what they're doing.
AKA
There's one.
Broncos. The Denver Broncos have been removing my content for 2 years now. 2 years.
Well, they are more of a, in my opinion, they're more of a PR organization. That's number one for them.
That's
PR.
why I'm covering the Broncos, because every time I put out Broncos material, they suppress it with the with the algorithm, or they remove it. Because
I want to talk about since we were out there and this is a journey. I'm getting to the point where I could write a book on this stuff. I could write a book. That organization, I believe that they're behind the Sean Payton video that came out because they're so vindictive. But what they did is, and again, we said we would use them as the pillar of what not to do as an organization. And because we were out there pointing out their media, all the misinformation they put out, and they're constantly wrong on what they say. They constantly, again, they promise the universe, and they can't even hit the treetops, okay? We would give a proper analysis of their player personnel, their moves, which were really frustrating to us because we started out, kind of from the fan point of view, then went to the GM. We just went to a nuts and bolts approach to it. And so what they had to do after the Russell Wilson experiment bombed on them, which we said it would, we're not like trying to go get them. We're just, one thing I got to say is they gave us a good, what did you say, training seminar on, we're about being on the right track. So everything we're saying is coming correct and true. It didn't work out like we said it would for the reasons exactly why we said it wouldn't. And everything that they'd said turned out to be false. Like we see so much around this world today, the powers that shouldn't be or whatever, promising the universe can't hit the treetops,
Donald Trump.
Safe and effective, what would you call it, leaders out there,
Puppets of the regime.
Puppets of the regime. So, or the hierarchy.
Whatever. Yeah.
So, so this infiltrates gets into every aspect. Like I said, there's a couple that was doing a travel. Well, they're doing better than some of these other entities. So in my opinion, they probably got sabotaged because they were getting too big, So this makes it just the problem with this. And you know what else? I'm going to get a email that we can bypass the bypass the censorship, is put out an email that people can email to who want to make contact, who want to discuss. So I'm spending all this time talking about this. It's not really what I wanted to talk about, but we had to talk about it because it's happening. I'd rather talk about players. I'd rather talk about systems. I wanted to segue into what a proper organization is.
Go ahead.
A proper football. What is the proper football hierarchy? I can't stress this enough. And that's number one is an ownership or a organization. What is it on the college ranks? It's the program, right?
the athletic director, and it just trickles down from there.
Yeah, okay, it's the football program. Okay,
Correct.
because we're talking football, not gymnastics or basketball.
Yeah.
So or golf. We're just talking football here.
But, yeah.
So the football program or the organization, they know who they are. They know, like for instance, Pittsburgh. We'll just take Pittsburgh Steelers for instance. It's nothing about being a fan. It's just about what calling a spade, a duck, that kind of thing. They know for years who they are. They know what they're looking for. And that's how they go. They go from that point of view to their coach. Okay, they're scouts. So in a proper football organization, you have the ownership or the director that knows what they are and what they're going to do. Then what you do is you get the scouts that are going to scout the type of players. Plus, in a way, you need to get, before you even get to that, in my opinion, you need to get the proper coach, that proper head coach. And that head coach is going to be given the opportunity to get his coaching staff that fits what he's doing. What are you talking about?
I say the head coach is the most important thing. I think I agree with some of what you said, but again, you can like the Denver Broncos, you can get Sean Payton, who we think is an offensive.
That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what they're doing. Yeah, they got Sean, but that's not what they're doing.
I understand that, but I'm talking about a hierarchy, which is you need to have you can get
that's what I'm getting into. We're also talking college too. So you got to put a front office together. First of all, okay, we'll step back. You're going to have to put an you're going to have to put an office together, whether it's in the college ranks or if it's in the pro ranks. That's going to support a coach, a type of coach you want. If it's going to be a certain system that you want, and you've got to stick to that. You can't be all over the place. You've got to have. Okay, I guess I see what you're saying. You got to get your front office squared away next, and everybody's got to be. I think you want to eliminate the cooks in the kitchen. You need general management, right? Is that what you're trying to get with me?
It's scouting that are on the same page that can find players that fit, like you said, the coach's system, that have the same identity, that have the same systematical approach. That's basically what I was going to say. That's basically what I was going into. I find that I get what you're saying with the coach. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, but you're right. Let's back up to the office first, because again,
that's where I find the important success to be. Is I believe you could have a Bill Belichick, but if you don't have that front office and scouting squared away, Bill Belichick isn't going to look as good, because you have to have the scouts and the general manager and the people in that upper hierarchy management to find the players that fit a Bill Belichick system.
Okay, let's back it up a little bit too. This is what you don't want. I don't think you want more cooks in the kitchen. We saw this with the New Orleans Saints. Everybody had an opinion, and the team was in shambles because one guy has this approach, this guy's got, and the other guy's got another approach, and we haven't even gotten to the office yet, the player personnel office yet. And these people already have all these ideas before we even get to so you have to be monolithic, whoever is at the top, the owner, director. You've got to just have one person as the say. If you have any other owners, if you do that, they cannot have say. You can have ownership, but you can only have one person with a say. I don't know how that works when you got a bunch of other people, because I own the team. I got, once you start, again, I call it getting into the weeds. So you have to limit the noise. You have to limit the noise. So you're saying, and I agree, that you have to get an office put together that with a goal. We're not going to have a whole bunch of other people in the office. See, that's another thing too. We got to limit it to a general manager. I don't know how it works in college once you get past the director. You have the whole athletic program director. Then I'm sure you have somebody directing the football team, I would assume, right?
Correct.
That
Yes.
person, you can't have 10 of those guys or 5 of those guys either, all with some, that's got to be a single, if you can do it. And then they got to get, I guess, the recruiters for they got to determine what they're going to be. And then once they determine what they're going to be, they need to go and find that coach, that head coach, that can find that head coach that knows what he does, and give that guy the opportunity to get the kind of coaches that fit his system. Obviously, the office is working on scouts, the scouts that fit their system. And even in college ranks, they're scouting high school players. So, all right. So, we're just saying you have to be uniform in this. I brought up the Pittsburgh Steelers because they're pretty much that. They know what they've been forever. I know they don't go to the Super Bowl every year, but at least they have stability there. Even when they're always in some kind of contention, there's always that. Right now, they don't have a quarterback. Oh my, but they have a base in which they can build a team to put a guy in. I don't know. It was Ben Roethlisberger was the last guy that they had, but they have the team that they can get a guy and then insert him in there. Maybe even bring over a guy like your Drew Lock or somebody who's been around for a little while. You could go in a lot of different directions. Use a bridge, and to me, a quarterback is probably one of the easier situations to resolve. I mean, you got 10 other guys. Well, you can more than that. You got 21 other guys that you gotta figure out to support that one player. That's the bigger challenge, as far as I'm concerned. But once you got that figured out, it makes it a whole lot easier for that whoever you have playing that quarterback role, down the road.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying this is kind of the approach that we think is the one that works. Less is more.
Yeah, and I think I just want to talk about the college ranks real quick. I think Nebraska is a perfect example of this. I mean, yes, they're not, they haven't been good for 2 decades plus. I understand that. And
Well, what was happening for 2+ decades?
Because they kept trying to go away from what worked in the 90s, 80s, 70s. I mean, they went away from what worked. And I think what Matt Rule has done, and Trev Alberts and that athletic Ted Carter, the chancellor, all that, it's like the Philadelphia Eagles in a way where, I mean, they're all in lockstep. They all have the same approach. They got the coach in Matt Rule who just, I mean, I send you videos here and there about Matt Rule saying, I believe the identity of the offense and defensive line. And what is he doing in recruiting? He's going out and getting guys on the offensive defensive line to build towards the future. Yeah, the Huskers aren't going to be great right now, but down the line, 2024,
They're building.
They're building the team, and they're doing it the right way. I just talked to you before we came on here about they got a guy from Colorado who is a very intriguing prospect who I'm going to do the scouting on. He's an interior offensive lineman, the 2024 prospect. I mean, you look at him he just pops off on film. I mean, this guy mauls dudes. And what did Nebraska do in the 90s? They tried to go out and recruit you, as you were saying. They were scouting you. But what was Nebraska known for in the 90s? They were dominant on the offense and defensive lines, and they went to national champions.
What were they? You tell me, what were they in the 80s?
In the 80s they were offensive defensive line centric with Osborne, and then even before that, Bob Devaney. They were offense and defensive line centric. They understood the importance of offense and defensive line play.
That
Okay.
was more the 80s, but yeah,
Well, with
yeah.
Bob Devaney too, they were offense and defensive line centric, and then Tom Osborne came in and just raised the level with it. He just raised the level of play on the offense and defensive line.
So let's back up from the coach, the current coach of the Huskers a little bit. Is he not getting support from the top?
Is Matt Rule not getting support from that? He's absolutely getting support from the top.
Yeah, is that? I mean, I'm talking and when I say support, I'm talking like everybody being honest.
They're not meddling. They're letting him do his job. Yes, they're absolutely letting him do his job. I mean, they gave him a big contract, and there's a reason why they gave him a big contract. Matt Rule, you do your job, and if we have to step in, we'll step in, but we're going to take a step back. And that's the one thing about Trev Alberts that I've absolutely loved is he's being a support system, but he's not being overwhelming support system where he's meddling in the decisions that Matt Rule wants to make. And the one thing that I find very interesting about this Nebraska about how they've done it is Matt Rule is bringing in coaches, surrounding himself with coaches that are familiar with his system. Okay, you got a Terrence Knighton who came from him. You remember Terrence Knighton who played for the Broncos? He's the D-line coach from the Nebraska Cornhuskers. He fits what Matt Rule wants to do. Okay, they brought in a defensive coordinator who fits what Matt Rule wants to run defensively. He brings in an offensive coordinator and an offensive coaching staff that fits what Matt Rule wants to do offensively. He surrounded himself, and that was the one thing that really tipped me off about why I think Nebraska is going to have success in the future, is because he surrounded himself, and Trev Alberts didn't meddle. The Chancellor, Ted Carter, didn't meddle. They let him go out and get his coaching staff and surround him with coaches that want to get players that fit his system.
Now, I want to transcribe that and impose what has happened with the Denver Broncos. Not that I wanted to have to say all this, but so you have a front office there. I think that the Denver Broncos are one of the most unusual stories in sports history. I think it's a story that's just not told. And that's the fact that you had an owner that died that didn't have a way to he didn't have anybody in his family to take it over like Hunt, Rooney, you know what I'm saying?
He didn't have a transition period in place.
He didn't have a transfer within his own family, which is the traditional way the NFL has done it.
Both agree that Beth Bowen Wallace could have been a good if they did, because Beth Bowen Wallace did not hold back, and I believe if they gave her the proper transitional, Bolin took her under his wing.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm going to get into, because this is what I want to say is that if that had happened, what you had then is you had one of the players become the owner temporarily while the what I don't know, can't remember what Ellis actually was the executive.
Ellis was a clown. He was just a talking head. That's all he was.
Well, he was like, okay, we'll call him a figurehead, basically a figurehead. But I believe that the player was running the show. The former player was running the show. So what I'm getting at is, so he built a front office.
He still is running the show.
Yeah, well, according to Sean Payton, he is. But what I'm getting at is he put a front office together that one year they want one thing, next year they want another thing. They just keep getting further and further into the weeds. Now, what you were saying about
8 years now,
we're going on to the 8th year of and it just progressively gets worse. And we'll get into Sean Payton here, but so each year they want something different. They're all over the place. There's no consistency. This is why I'm bringing them up. Why they lose? Why that there's no, like I said, it's swinging for this, swinging for that, and it's nothing consistent except inconsistency. Is there consistency? So you're right. Had this other person taken over the ownership, they wouldn't have embraced that losing culture. So when they would have done the proper thing and cleaned the slate out and then started to a point where they could get a Sean Payton and say, look, so what else did they do? They blamed everybody they brought in, but they didn't blame themselves, right? Then new ownership came in, and they didn't kick them out and say, well, this is 8 years. Well, wait, we got this big splash move. Wait, just big splash moves is not what makes. You can look at the track record of successful teams throughout history. It's never been about big splash moves, except in the context that this team is already established, and maybe they got one guy, brought him in or something like this, or a couple guys and brought him in, but the core of the team and its identity is well established. Then you can bring in a guy. Let's not go nuts on this. Maybe a guy that could help you out, but that your whole philosophy shouldn't be built on, unless I guess you want to. If your PR department is more important, this is what I want to really get at, is that teams that are successful, they don't need PR departments. Right now here in Denver, we have the Nuggets, and Nuggets merchandise is flying off the shelf. They don't have PR departments, okay? The PR department's on the court in this case. For football teams, the PR department's on the field. If Nebraska gets their act together, things work out, they don't need to have. If they invest in the system, if they make that investment in what they're doing, it's going to be the best PR that you could possibly get is your success on the field. Am I wrong or right about that?
Well, I think the PR that you hear for Nebraska, I mean, I send you clips here and there about PR. What is the thing that they always say that Nebraska's preaching? They get players that fit the system. I mean, they're in lockstep. Even the PR in Lincoln is in lockstep with the athletic department in Lincoln. I mean, they're not different. They're not trying to sell you on shit. They're out, they get a recruit, and I have the Husker Online people saying that they got the player because he fits Matt Rule's system. I mean, and then you look at the Denver Broncos in Denver. Oh, we're going to go get Stephon Diggs, but he doesn't fit Sean Payton's system. Or we're going to go get Frank Clark. Oh, what a splash move that was. He's a 4-3-5 tech defensive end. He's been playing it in Kansas City, been playing it in Seattle, and now he's coming to a 3-4 to be an outside linebacker.
Well, I just want to say this, that I would just want to say this, Frank Clark for the Denver Broncos is not the story on the Frank Clark.
It's
the Kansas City Chiefs is the story, is the Frank Clark story. It's the same old swinging for the retreads. It's the same old splash move organization. If you really want to know the Frank Clark situation, it has to do with the Kansas City Chiefs. Let me ask you this. Will the Kansas City Chiefs miss Frank Clark? No. Why are they not going to miss Frank Clark?
Because they've been on the downhill since 2019, and they got players that are young and up and coming that replaced him.
Now, let me ask you this. This is nothing new for Kansas City, correct? Is bringing in players in development. Am I correct?
You are correct.
That is the story of the Frank Clark story. The teams that are constantly going to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, it ain't all about Mahomes, because we saw Mahomes when his player personnel around him was subpar. He looked just like any other quarterback out there when he got destroyed in the Super Bowl.
He looked like Russell Wilson in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. Let's just be honest.
Yes. So it's about the player personnel around the guy. That's what the story is really about. And absolutely. I think that's why we're feared. That's why we're hated. That because we are centric in doing things the correct way, and we really want to promote players. That we don't want players going to systems that don't fit what they're doing, because that's just going to wreck that player. For the most, maybe there's a case or two out there where they can adapt to a different system, but that's not the norm. Coaches, we don't want, like, I guess unless you pay him the king's ransom, you're Sean Payton, and then tell him he's got to be 10 different things. He can't be Sean Payton, right?
And the sandbox.
Yeah. No, you can't be who you are. You play in our sandbox. That is, We are definitely against that approach. You don't have that in Nebraska, do you? You got to play in our sandbox.
No, you don't. You don't have that. In again, what did I say? I said he was able to surround his coaches and he's able to run the systems that he wants to run.
So everybody's on the same sheet of music, right?
I'm trying to say everybody in Lincoln and Nebraska are on the same page. That's why you got coaches that are on the same page where he can go out and recruit players that fit his system on the offense, defense, special teams, whatever. That's why I'm more high on Nebraska than I am on the Denver Broncos, because the Denver Broncos are the polar opposite of what Nebraska is going to be eventually. Okay, everybody, I think one thing that we've lost as a society and as football fans is patience. We're more impatient now more than ever because we want the results now. We want big splash moves now. But again, the good teams like the Steelers, like the Chiefs,
Ravens.
the Ravens, the Bills, they incrementally built their teams through the years that are able to sustain that. I'd rather have long-term success than short-term mediocrity. I mean, can we all agree on that? I would rather have the teams that the Broncos. I would rather have the Broncos look for long-term success, but the problem is that they're so engaged in this PR, this short-term quarterback away mediocrity, that they can't get their shit together.
Well,
Nebraska.
they aren't even mediocrity. I mean, their Super Bowl would be a 500 season for them. That would be
on Madden 23. That is their Super Bowl. Their Super Bowl is in Madden 23, Madden 24. But on the field, in real life, the Eagles again, the Eagles are the gold standard right now. I mean, you sit there, you look at their roster, you look at their 53-man roster, man. They go, I mean, they don't even need to play their starters against the Broncos. They could play their second and third string against the Broncos, and they would.
Well, we saw that with Buffalo, didn't we? Well, I want to just talk about the Broncos in this regard. They got an offensive line coach who we feel is good, but the problem is, I think they're going to tell him to do all kinds of different things that he's not even really. That's not his gig. It's not a shtick. He's got players that don't even fit what he does, and that's what I'm trying to get at is.
Chopped liver. They did it with Mike Munchak. It wasn't just Zach Stripe. They did it with Mike Munchak.
So they keep. Well, that's what I'm saying. They keep. This is what I'm saying. I don't want to send our coaches. I don't want to send our players to organizations and teams that just chew them up and spit them out. People can say, well, on the NFL, it's just entertainment. It's just these are players that have worked their entire life. These are coaches that have worked there. Don't you think they deserve better than just being chewed up and spit out? That's why we're here to do what we can to get right players and right coaches, the right systems, and just harp on this and point it out, because you're not going to get it from the analytics, but the regular analytics managers are going to spew numbers at it and then they blame everybody when their crap doesn't go right.
Yeah, put out highlight reels, and one guy that I'm rooting for right now is Jordan Rhodes. I mean, the sheer fact that he fell through the cracks in the Saints.
I want to talk about that too. Go ahead.
The sheer fact that Jordan Rhodes, who wasn't, I mean, you look at the all 22 tape that I put out, and I believe other teams looked at it. This guy is an absolute mauler. He is going to build his technique, and he's going to an organization that is going to take I think Doug Moreau, whatever the O-line coach, was talking about technique and all that. He's going to a right organization. And the sheer fact that the Saints picked him up as an undrafted free agent and invited him to training camp, I mean, this guy's going to flourish, and I think he's going to make the practice squad, and he's only going to get better. He's only going to get better because he fits.
Well, he should have been drafted further up.
That the people don't listen to us. The Saints, I believe the Saints and the Saints source that we have in New Orleans right now, I guarantee you they listen to us talk about Jordan Rhodes, and they listen to my film breakdown, and it's just ironic that he went to the Saints.
Well, here's the thing. I think the Saints are deep in their offensive line because they get it. They're another team organization that's got it, and I think that's going to have an effect on Sean Payton. I think what the story isn't so much that the Denver Broncos got Sean Payton. I think what the story is that two things. One is that Sean Payton no longer has Loomis or Ireland or the single owner, the monolithic thing that me and you discussed.
Well, he doesn't have that scouting department either.
He doesn't have the well, he doesn't have the backing like your guy in Nebraska has. It's a similar kind of situation. Okay. Now Gruden has that. Carr has that, and I could see that Gruden and Carr kind of becoming the old Tampa Bay type. Going back to those Tampa Bay days.
Gruden.
Isn't John Gruden their head coach now?
No, it's Dennis Allen.
Oh, is it? I thought it was John Gruden now.
No,
I thought they brought him back.
Gruden isn't the coach for the Saints. He's out of the league.
He was. I thought he came back.
No. Dennis Allen's the head coach of the Saints.
He's the old defensive coordinator for the Saints. I could have sworn John Gruden was.
Nope, John Gruden is not in the league.
Well, I know he wasn't, but I thought he came back with the Saints.
Nope.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I guess that was just what I saw was just a April Fool's joke or something, right?
Yeah, it was probably an April Fool's joke.
But that would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be very interesting, especially with the player personnel that the Saints have.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think that I don't think Dennis Allen is a bad coach at all. I just think he's like a Vic Fangio. To me,
he'd be better just to stay in the defensive. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But I do like what the Saints did, though. I mean, you had Derek Carr. He fit Derek Carr is. Could you? I mean, if Sean Payton was with the Saints right now, I mean, my God, I mean, that's such a Sean Payton quarterback, Derek Carr. I mean, that is.
Well, he wanted the money. That's all that really mattered.
Yep, retirement.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I guess when you're talking $100 million plus, it's kind of hard to. John, he's still going to be around here. But anyway, so I just want to say, what we're doing. You're going to be looking at. Hopefully, there be coming up with some more film. I hope.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I've just been trying to focus on getting platforms up and running to try and funnel in content for this channel and the scouting guy.
Yeah, good. So yeah, I don't have really anything else.
Nope, I don't have anything else. I want to try and get on this this prospect that I'm looking at, the guy that Nebraska picked up from Colorado.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah, I'm going to keep working behind the scenes and keep funneling more players and whatnot your way.
Sweet. Awesome.
Or, promoting what you've done so far.
Yep.
All right.
That's
it for me. Yeah.
Right. Take care.
Okay, take care.
You too.